High on my list of reasons to visit the Philippines was to scuba dive, and I really wanted to see a whale shark. In Oslob, there's actually a guaranteed way to swim up close with one. And while it has become a huge tourist attraction, the practice of feeding them has raised some questions. In this episode, I'm diving into alternative ways to admire these gentle giants and how to experience this beautiful country responsibly, with the help of some new internet friends who love the ocean even more than I do.
Hi everyone, my name is Louise Rascon, but most of my friends do know me as Shark. I am currently a sustainability designer with a background in environmental science and policy as well. I'm just really here to design for people and the planet and find innovative and creative ways to kind of bridge environmental preservation with design.
I'm El Hernandez. I'm a full-time marine biologist and a TikTok content creator. So I actually graduated from my degree in biology last year. And then sometime through that, I thought it would be a really fun thing as like a young person who's chronically online to use the internet to sort of just like teach. So originally I was teaching people about general biology and just ecology, and then it sort of followed me into my career now in marine biology. So that's pretty much like my content. I'm trying to make the public more aware, educate them better, trying to demystify science, and also just like adding like a touch of like girly pop in it. That's pretty much me.
Which I love. I am also chronically online. So, Louise, is it okay to swim with whale sharks in Oslob when you visit the Philippines?
Okay, I think that is a question a lot of people have, and I totally understand like the excitement. You know, whale sharks are such incredible animals, and getting to see one up close is something super memorable and something you really won't forget. But that said, I think it's also worth knowing what goes on behind the scenes. So in a slob specifically, the whale sharks are actually fed to make sure they stick around for tourists. So this practice is also called provisioning. So this has raised some concerns among conservationists. Few things to consider is that it can alter like their natural behaviors. They're a bit more dependent on humans to feed them. And while that seems kind of harmless, it does change their natural behavior. So instead of migrating and foraging like they normally would, they kind of start relying on people for food. And in that case, too, they're a bit more vulnerable to risks of injuries from boats and just also the overall stress from being around so many humans all the time, especially because this really boomed. So if you ask me if it's okay, I'd say it's a bit complicated, and it's not really about blaming people who go or blaming people who want to go. Some people just really don't know kind of the behind the scenes. But I think once you do and once you're educated, it's worth considering more sustainable alternatives where interactions are more on the whale shark's terms instead of ours. And that's just my take.
Yeah, not here to shame, but here to educate.
Educate, yes.
So, if you go to the Philippines and you're just dying for a whale shark photo because they are adorable, is there a more ethical alternative to swimming with them in Oslob?
Well, building off also from the thesis that I made, I did focus on one of the other whale shark ecotourism sites in the Philippines in Donsol, Sorsogon. In Donsol, their interactions are a bit guided with stricter guidelines, and the biggest difference is that they don't feed the whale sharks. So the encounters happen a bit more naturally and respective of their migration season, which means it's totally on the whale sharks' terms. So if they show up, great. And if not, that's okay too. And that's what the locals kind of reinforce, that this thing is not guaranteed because you want to make sure that we kind of don't disrupt their natural migration pattern. So it's really about respecting their rhythm and not forcing that guaranteed sighting. And what I found during my research was that this kind of approach isn't just better for whale sharks, it also creates kind of more meaningful experiences for people. So Donsol's program is community led. So they have support from organizations like WWF Philippines and other marine conservation organizations. So locals are highly trained as guides and spotters. And a big part of that whole interaction is education. So they make sure that you're not just swimming with a whale shark, you're also learning about their role in the ecosystem, their migration patterns, and why conservation as a whole matters.
And when they're feeding the whale sharks in Oslob, what are they feeding them?
I believe they feed them chum and some part of the bait that fishermen usually use. I think I read somewhere that before there was kind of a competition between the whale sharks in the shore and the fishermen trying. So they figured out that if they give some portion of their chum or their bait, that they wouldn't really be competing, and that's kind of how they kept it going.
I wonder if they're chumming the water too much, if whale sharks could get too fat. Is that a risk at all?
That could be a risk too. And on top of that, if they're so highly dependent on us feeding them, and if they do decide to leave, then they might associate any vessel or any boat with food, and that's again adding to the risk of them getting hit by larger vessels or boat injuries. So that's really something that we should be mindful of.
Moving on from the whale sharks, what about coral reefs in the Philippines? What should travelers keep in mind?
The thing that really keeps me up at night, although I do also acknowledge that it's not anyone's direct fault, but more so a fault of education, is that a lot of people perceive like when you go out into the water and especially I work in like coral biodiversity, people think that like pretty is healthy. Most people don't really know what healthy looks like. So this is something that I hear all the time. I'm out in like coastal communities in Batangas teaching, and they say like, I didn't know because if I was in the water and I saw a lot of white, especially if it was glinting in the sun, and that's very beautiful to me, I would think that that's healthy because it's beautiful. And suddenly you're trying to have to teach these people that no, that's actually not the case. Like if you see a lot of white, that's a sign of bleaching. That's a sign of global warming, of climate change. Even worse, there are actually some coral species that turn like a neon green or a neon purple, like when they're sick, when they're bleaching. But, you know, if you didn't know that, I for sure didn't know that, it would be like, wow, that is stunning. So it's one of those things where you see a wide coverage of corals. But then to, I guess, like a trained scientist, I would say that, oh, but the diversity is really low because that's all one kind of coral. Or you see a really beautiful fish, even a lot of the same beautiful fish. And then you realize it's the invasive lionfish. So there's, I think, a lot more when it comes to education that we lack. Again, I don't think it's anybody's fault, but that's one thing that bothers me that I think I'm trying to bridge with my content is like, you don't know what healthy looks like. I think Louise put it really well earlier about how like what worked for her thesis is that it was community led. So in a lot of these cases, our healthiest reefs are the ones near communities that care the most. So we're trying to sort of empower these communities. We're trying to bring ourselves out there, teach them the science, in the hopes that, you know, it will empower them to take action in their own reefs because they're the people who have the most access to them and are the most reliant to them too.
While I was in the Philippines, I had the chance to interview one of my dive masters, and he shared some great local insight.
My name is Chris, one of the local dive master here in El Nido, and I'm a freelance dive master since 2013. Okay, the 3 dives that we did today is the first is Entalula wall, that we can see the electric lamp, and Paglugaban with the rock formation, and it's called yellow snapper, and the last one is Nat. We saw barracuda, blue spotted stingray, cleaning shrimp, and also the box fish. The coolest thing I ever seen is a whale shark, and yeah, manta and hammerhead shark.
Yeah. And do you think tourism is good for the Philippines?
Yeah, here in El Nido, yes, because we are a tourist spot. Mostly, if there's no tourists, we don't have work anymore. Like we just go fishing or construction.
Okay.
Tourist is good.
And How have you seen the coral reefs change over the years? Do you think they're getting healthier or about the same?
Here in El Nido, getting less. Like some corals are getting dead,
Yeah.
not like before, but maybe because of the climate change.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part being a dive master is, first of all, I enjoy my job because we are looking for a nice corals, like a different world underwater, and while earning money.
I think same points that Elle made, but also thinking of like how communities and ecosystems that kind of contribute the least to climate change are the ones suffering the most. And that's kind of something very evident, especially in our country, in the Philippines. Like, I think about the coastal towns in my country, like losing their fisheries, families getting displaced by stronger and stronger typhoons, coral reefs bleaching before the next generation even gets to like see them. And it's not just about, like, to me, what I'm bothered by is that it's really not just about rising temperatures, it's also about injustice and like loss of identity, your livelihood, and just how broken systems can be. And I also think about how numb some people have become. Like, we hear record breaking heat or like climate tipping point, and we just like scroll past that. And I think that's what scares me the most. And like the idea that we're losing kind of not just biodiversity, but also empathy. And I really think like people like Elle and you, like who focus on education, are doing amazing strides, because at the same time, that's also what drives me. Like, that's why I do the work that I do, like bridging science and design through storytelling, and really designing with communities and creating those tools for the education that we always say we need. And I think working on ocean conservation, marine conservation, and these amazing fields is really scary. There's a lot of climate anxiety with it. But I think as long as we stick together and really flip that fear into action, and I really believe in the power of small, thoughtful change. So, especially when it's collective, right? So, yeah, I'm really hopeful that through these tiny efforts by everybody, we can come across and actually do something.
I love that. And that's like a big goal of my podcast, Broad Abroad, is like being thoughtful when you travel and getting more in touch with other communities in totally different parts of the world. I think it's really easy to just not think about other people's problems or the effects of climate change until like you go there and see it.
I think one major thing to remember when doing ecotourism, especially when you go to a place like the Philippines, is that tourism is welcome. It's a great thing to do. We love to show off our country. It's a beautiful country. Our nature is beautiful. But when you do scuba diving, or even if you go hiking, or you just stay by the beach, a big part is that you try to leave it as untouched as possible. So when you go hiking, you know how they say, like, don't stack rocks, even if it looks pretty. So yeah, absolutely. Go scuba diving, go have fun. We have beautiful reefs that, Filipinos were performers. We love to show off. So we love having people. I think what's dangerous is that when tourism sometimes gets to be too much, when it becomes irresponsible, that's when, you sort of have to like pump the brakes. But when it comes to like, should I go scuba diving in the Philippines? I would say, yeah, as much as you can. It's great. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, that's mostly what I did, and it was so awesome. I saw an electric clam, eels, starfish. Like, there's just so much to see. It was so impressive. And like the sardine, I saw the sardine ball, and the turtles that are just not afraid of humans at all. Like, I accidentally almost ran into one that was like this big, and I was like, this is what you go to the Philippines for, is like just to be so immersed in nature. It was so beautiful.
I feel like it's such a blessing to have been born and raised in the Philippines, because the country is home to some of the richest biodiversity in the world. Like, not just in its landscapes, but in its culture too. Like, it's so beautiful, and it feels like home all the time. So while you're there, I do invite you to travel with curiosity, but also travel with so much care. Ask a lot of questions and support your local guides and businesses. Like Elle mentioned earlier, the locals and the local community are the most reliant and are also the most knowledgeable about the nature that you will be surrounded by. So make sure that you kind of choose experiences that respect wildlife and more importantly the communities who protect them. So whether you're kind of snorkeling maybe with turtles or island hopping or just enjoying the beach, like remember that every choice you make matter and make sure that you leave nothing, like leave no trace behind. And tourism, when done right, is something that can be a force for good. So make sure that when you partake in that, that you actually do your part and make sure you leave the islands better than we found them. And that's for the people, the planet, and of course, the ocean. So it's really a collective thing that we should all work towards.
I also want to add, like, also to like something that Louise said, where you come for the nature, but at the same time, definitely come for the community as well.
Yeah.
So when you go into the Philippines, just know that it's a community of like really big-hearted people, and I would just argue like meet like the best people ever, like because Filipinos care so much, and yeah, so definitely like come for the nature, but also definitely come for the people because you have no idea like how strong and well knit and tight knit our communities are, and like just how much love we have for people and like the things around us. And I think that's definitely one thing that like makes, I hope so, but like one thing that I feel like makes our tourism like sparkle is because
Definitely.
we love so much. Like that's it. We just
Yeah.
like love everything.
Everything. People,
Everything.
planet, nature,
Yeah.
everybody. And they're
Everybody.
so welcoming. And I'm so glad to hear that you had such a good experience. And I think that's a common thing you'll hear from any of my friends who say, I've been to the Philippines. Like, they will not shut up about it. And I agree because I've been away from home for so long. And all I'm thinking of is, like, I wish I can go home soon. Like, it's really an experience that you will not forget.
I know. It's a long flight, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's a long flight.
Very long
Such a long
flight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thanks
Thank you
for having
having
us.
us.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
reaching out.
Elle, too.
Of course. Really, thank you. And have a great rest of your day.